Another textbook win for the Florida Panthers. Paul Maurice hits a milestone, and it's another 20-goal season by Alexander Barkov.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, April 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Subscribe, and if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button down below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, and you could do that all on FanDuel. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to talk about everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And man, this was a fun one where the Florida Panthers defeat the Detroit Red Wings by a final score of 4-1, avoid the sweep. And for the Panthers, it was another game that they played to their identity the last few weeks. For them, it's been a little difficult for them as far as the finishing, but the Panthers, after struggling to finish in the first period, they finished with three second period goals, finished it off in the third period with some added insurance, and it's another win. Avoid the sweep against the Red Wings. Paul Maurice gets win number 915 to get him to third all time. And man, the Panthers just keep rolling, and they're getting healthier as well. And all of this with Carter Verhaeghe getting a maintenance day on the evening with Nico Sturm coming back into the mix. And here to break all this down on this edition of the show, it is Friday, which means it's Fairbanks Friday. Nich Fairbanks is back. And Nick, man, that was another fun game for the Florida Panthers, and they are getting things right as by the time this drops, 8 days away from the postseason.
Definitely. And, their defensive game has actually been pretty good for the last couple of weeks. It's, their identity. It's just the offense that hasn't really come around until probably the last two games where, guys were, just really like Carter Verhaeghe, just gripping the stick too much and doing everything he can to score, and finally gets an open netter last game. And then finally, Ratman lands this game and scores his first. So as I tweeted earlier, the defensive game is there. Just wait till the goals start going in, and this team is going to be on another level. And this is why teams around the NHL fear this organization.
Yeah, and Brad Marchand, he's been inching so close to getting a goal, and then getting one after the Panthers create a turnover in the neutral zone, and then him going on to the top while Cam Talbot committed down low for the Detroit Red Wings there. But I mean, it was really after really one missed assignment for the Panthers. That really was their only blip of the game after losing Alex DeBrincat in the blue paint for them after they dumped the puck. But I mean, like I said, their ability to finish with 3 goals in the second, and to think that the 6 shots that the Detroit Red Wings had, 4 of them were in the slot. So early on, it was quality over quantity for them. And to think that for the Panthers here in the second period, those 3 goals, even the 4th goal for the Panthers, all 4 goals were not the same as far as like the difference in how they were scored, with Evan Rodrigues getting a clear lane to the net on the power play, his first goal since March 1st. Mackie Sanaskevich on the spinorama for his 15th of the season, and like we mentioned, the Brad Marchand one earlier, and then Alexander Barkov in the third period, that deflection right off the draw. Seth Jones' shot from the blue line for the deflection for his 20th goal season for him. But this game, Nick, was set. The tone was set by the defensemen on just their two-way play, how they were able to activate in the zone as well when the Panthers did bring it up in transition. I thought that how they were activating it on offense really set the tone for them on just how they were able to push. And I counted on more than 2 occasions complete line changes while the pucks were deep.
And that is the identity of Panthers hockey. When you can hem another team into their own zone so badly that you can get line changes in, it's not very often that you can see that. And with the defense, as you were saying, activating and making sure that pucks don't leave the zone, it just showed the confidence in what they're doing. And it's a little bit different than what they were able to accomplish against Detroit in their last meeting, where I felt they were a lot tentative and didn't really, I guess, win a lot of those battles. Like, they would try to step in and keep the puck in the zone, and unfortunately it would just be a unlucky bounce, or Detroit would get to the puck first. But tonight, completely different story.
Yeah, and then the story of the first 2 matchups for the Panthers against the Red Wings was the fact that the fact that they scored 4 power play goals in those first 2 matchups for them. And look what happens when you bring Nico Sturm back. He's the first. Him and Eetu Luostarinen are the first unit back on the penalty kill. The last game was the Barkov and Reinhart pair starting off with the forwards. And the thing is, when you have superstars who could actually finish shorthanded like Barkov and Reinhart, you're better off having them as a second pair on the ice there, so that there's more tired players on the opposition's power play, so that you can get more with speed there. So that gives that up and down the lineup for the Panthers when they are down a man is truly helpful. And then how Nico Sturm was winning the draws. Nosek was actually one of the ones who was leading the charge in faceoff wins tonight. But really, for the Panthers, just really once again on their PK, 0 for 2 for the Detroit Red Wings, battling on and getting a stick when the Detroit Red Wings did have it on the blue line as well. So that's another big factor on just how important he is coming back to the lineup.
It's very good to see him come back after that weird collision I believe he had with another Panther player. So it's good to see him come back, and it's not a long-term thing. Because he's going to be needed. He's been the 4th line center that the Panthers have needed all season, and he looked every bit of the part tonight. Now, what I will say about the penalty kill is that you didn't see Barkov and Reinhart out there hardly at all tonight. Yeah. And it's another way that Maurice is really trying to make sure that all the lines, or at least everybody, gets double-digit minutes. You're resting your best players, but making sure that the game is within your control. And when you do, guess what? The 4th line gets plenty of minutes towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and to think that for the line of Nico Sturm, Jesper Boquist, Evan Rodrigues, they led the 5-on-5 time on ice according to Natural Stat Trick, 13 minutes and 13 seconds, 20-9 shot attempt advantage for them, 9-3 shots for shots against advantage for them. So over 70% on both those categories for the Panthers. And even the no-sec line, they had a great rush in the beginning. Unfortunately, that was deflected off a stick when Jonah Gadjevich and Tomas Nosek were trying to go in on the rush. But it's also the fact that the Panthers were getting in on the rush, and the 4th line was also another thing for the Panthers here, and just how they were able to just once again get through. And there was I knew that the Detroit Red Wings were in trouble when there was this one pass that Marchand made, and Detroit was just up towards the hashes, and it takes like 3 or 4 seconds to realize Eetu Luostarinen, and Brad Marchand completes a pass right behind them. But even though Eetu Luostarinen missed the net, I'm like, oh man, their defensive awareness there and their lack of having a head on a swivel, I just figured that this was going to be a long night for them.
And that's what actually is partly what's plagued Detroit most of this season. A lot of people look to their goaltending, and if it wasn't for Cam Talbot, partly Alex Lyon, most of this season, Detroit would be nowhere where they are. I mean, take out their power play too, and they're probably a top 5, pick this year. So their defense needs to be sorted out. Steve Yzerman's got to figure out what he's doing with that back end. I understand that he's bringing up a lot of young guys and a lot of young guys that look good right now, but it's not helping the team. And on top of that, they need forwards to score. Unfortunately, when you just have DeBrincat, Kane, and Larkin that are going to put the puck in the back of the net. You still have, 9 other guys that need to step up and do their role. Didn't really see that too much tonight.
Yeah, and Lucas Raymond, they mentioned on the broadcast how he slammed his stick after one of the shifts. He was basically invisible. The Panthers were really able to neutralize them, and this is a guy who scores 30 goals, who can on multiple seasons for him. So that's another thing for him on just how they were able to just consistently keep eyes on him and just keep eyes on that top line, and then the rest of the lineup, they were able to take care of them there. So, but we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss our 3 stars of the game and the moment where we knew the game was won. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Once again, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All on FanDuel. Segment 2 here on this Friday, April 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday, as the Florida Panthers defeat the Detroit Red Wings by a final score of 4-1 and avoid the sweep against Detroit. And Nick, let's go right into our 3 stars of the game for the Panthers here. Number 3 star, I'm going to give it to Uvis Balinskis, and I picked on him quite a bit this season, but for Uvis getting 2 assists on the night, secondary assists on a dump in, trying to get the Seth Jones pair on, and also got some time with Gustav Forsling on the night to try to see what they could figure out with life before Aaron Ekblad comes back. Which, by the way, Aaron Ekblad has been cleared by the NHL and the NHLPA to return to the ice to practice and travel with the team, but still cannot play until Game 3 of the postseason. So Uvis Balinskis gets the 2 assists, including that big assist to Brad Marchand as they regained the zone. So Uvis Balinskis is star number 3. Star number 2, Brad Marchand gets his first as a Panther. That line didn't necessarily take the world by storm this game like they did on Tuesday against the Leafs. Got outshot, but a big insurance goal and a big moment and a weight lifted off the shoulder, and a new tradition of handing him a rat after they win. And great questions by Katie Engelson after the game, talking about just trying to fit in, and just Brad Marchand answering, "They're just bullying me." And then she followed up with another question of him being on that line with Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen, and if he's learned any Finnish chirps yet. So loved that question by Katie. And number 1 star, Gustav Forsling. My goodness, the absolute wizardry that this guy put defensively. 2 assists, but the more impressive thing that Gustav Forsling did was just how he was able. There was 1 2-on-1 that he stopped. That he, although Tyler Mott didn't lift the puck as high as he should have, that was a big stop on an odd man rush. Once again, full line changes. He was responsible for one, hugging the blue line and just getting pinching in and getting it deep, and then the dive to take the puck out of the stick of Jeff Petrie right before Brad Marchand scored that insurance goal. So and just sacrificing the body, diving everywhere, and it really truly made a difference. And also honorable mention, I want to give Seth Jones an honorable mention. Continued to close the gaps well, and the Panthers an embarrassment of riches of guys who can skate, and along with guys having a good reach for the puck as well. So those are my 3 stars of the game, Nick.
So I'm going to agree with you on Uvis Balinskis. Definitely was somebody who was getting whipped around a lot on this show and probably around the fan base because, unfortunately, I just don't think he was playing up to a standard that we expect. And it's good to see him actually have a game like this. And I'm going to say this. I think his elevated play the last couple games has actually been because he's playing with Megna. Megna is a huge body, and Uvis doesn't have to really rely on being that guy that's going to play physical or have to get guys, separated from the puck using, physical means. Megna's going to take care of that, and Uvis can play his game where he's going to be a puck mover and, distribute the puck. And he had a great pass to get Marchand on the board as his first as a Cat. Second star, Sergei Bobrovsky.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'll get to this here later in this section, but I think that he was probably the main reason why Florida actually rallied and was able to come back and win in the second period, basically, and take over this game because Detroit, they weren't looking too good in the first period. Florida was throwing the kitchen sink at them, couldn't score. I mean, it's a tale that we've all heard before, and Detroit scores on one mistake. But after that, he shut the door, and there was no question about it. My first star. Try to think about this one for just a second. Oh, Samoskevich, somebody who I was not high on earlier this year because, again, new to the league, had to get well-rounded. He was getting bumped off the puck a lot. He is turning into quite the pistol, and on top of that, he's putting the puck in the back of the net when the Panthers need it the most. So I think that wraparound or that turnaround goal that he had, I was expecting him to pass to Barkov because Barkov was locked and loaded, ready for the one-timer. Not that he would have possibly shot it. He might have passed it. But I'm just glad that there's somebody on this team that is a shoot-first mentality. It doesn't matter. And he'll put it to puck wherever he wants. Plus, he threw a hit on Sider, which – I don't see a lot of players. Yeah, I don't see a lot of players trying to do that. They're waiting for the reverse hit, and all bad things happen after that.
Yeah, and to think that when he did that spinorama, it created a little bit of deception where there was like no screen in front. It was just him right there versus Cam Talbot. It's just like I'm ready for this. So the moment, it doesn't seem too big for him anymore. For him, and honestly, that wasn't even the best pass by Gustav Forsling, able to reach and still get it on his blade and get it back. And going back to your Bobrovsky point for when you put him as second star, after the Panthers went up 2-1, after the Samoskevich goal, 3 stops in the same shift for him. Patrick Kane, and then Dylan Larkin, and Simon Edvinsson on a follow, which was a big sequence for the Panthers there defensively. And then the Detroit Red Wings didn't really have as much sustained pressure then as they were just struggling to break it out of their own zone. And the Panthers were just wasting a lot of time. And like we mentioned, those constant line changes right there. But the moment where I knew that the game was won for the Panthers was that Brad Marchand goal. You add a little bit of insurance. The Detroit Red Wings weren't really giving them anything, and you just calm things down a little bit right before going into an intermission. 2-goal lead going into them. You think at the time the high danger chances are double for the Panthers. Shots on goal are +6. Cycle chances were 10-4 after 40 minutes. So the Panthers consistently, the Detroit Red Wings chasing the plays consistently, and the Panthers just relaxed as can be when they were in their offensive zone. So that Brad Marchand goal for me, especially because of how late it was in the second period, 16-21 for them, it calmed things down, even though we saw the push consistently from the Panthers there.
So mine, as I was kind of alluding to when I was picking my 3 stars, it has to deal with Sergei Bobrovsky and at the end of the first period. Randy always says something to the effect of, if the Panthers come back and win this game, remember that save. And it was the save to end the first period. I think it was on Patrick Kane.
Yes,
somehow got behind Nate Schmidt. I don't want to say miscommunication, but probably missed him. And Bob comes up with a huge save. And to think of how Florida would have reacted if that would have went in to end the period. That would have been a completely different feel. And look coming into the second period, probably a little bit more desperation, but they wouldn't have been able to play their game. They would have had to be chasing like Detroit was chasing them. So to me, when he made that save, I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine. They just got to score 1 or 2, and we got this.
Yeah, and to think that Bobrovsky went like at least a good 4 or 5 feet out of his crease in order to make it, and it still landed right in his chest right there. And to think that mentally what that means going into the locker room, and just who knows what could have happened in the locker room, like slamming sticks as well, like we mentioned with Lucas Raymond earlier. That could have been the Panthers then going into it, and then just overthinking on plays. And we've seen it so many times where we see a fluke goal from the Panthers. I can only imagine what that locker room was mentally when the Ottawa Senators scored 2 goals in the first period, but the Panthers are thinking, man, what do they have to do to buy a goal here? And that caused the Panthers to just not be a relaxed bunch the rest of the 40 minutes. So the Panthers' ability to be a relaxed bunch, going down 1, and the fact that Detroit got committed a penalty early on, that really had the Panthers licking their chops there for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where a Panthers prospect can now sign his entry-level deal. The Panthers' last games has been moved to the national stage. And also, we're going to continue the good vibes and the good conversation based on how the Panthers are just going through the rest of this regular season on just a high note as of right now. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And there's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching up a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA or NHL matchup, but finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front. No surprises at checkout. And you could save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. You can grab last minute seats for any game, and you could save big with their zone deals. And with the seat views before you buy, no surprise fee and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Their lowest price guarantee means I never worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment 3 here on this Friday, April 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day, as the Florida Panthers are coming off a 4-1 win over the Detroit Red Wings, avoid the sweep, and also, like I mentioned at the top, we didn't touch on this too much. Paul Maurice gets win number 915, so passes Barry Trotz for now 3rd all-time, only behind Joel Quenneville and Scotty Bowman. Still a ways away to get to 2nd, which chances are if Joel Quenneville does not get hired by a team next year, there's at least like 40 plus wins that Paul Maurice would have to get in order to pass Q for 2nd all time. So big congratulations to them, and also gave a lot of credit to the group and just the journey that they've been throughout these last few years. So Denver, University of Denver, the Denver Pioneers will not be three-peating this year, as they lost 26 seconds into double overtime, where Western Michigan dominated the possession, double the amount of shots, and then ever since the second period, they were equal in the amount of shots in the 3rd period and into overtime. It was 14-14 in shots, so not a lot of room out there for both teams. And then 26 seconds for Western Michigan. Z Buyan tries to get a deflection off a pass, and then Western Michigan scores for a chance for their first national championship, their first appearance in the Frozen Four. Penn State is also in their first Frozen Four. And as of right now, that game is actually going on against Boston University as of right now, as of this recording. So that game is not final at this point in time. But Jack Devine has a chance to sign his entry-level deal now for the Panthers. So has the opportunity to either sign for this year, burn a year, sign an ATO with the Charlotte Checkers and join them on their playoff run, or become a free agent. I think what's going to end up happening is that Jack Devine will sign an ATO and join Charlotte this year for their upcoming playoff run. So he returned for a chance to three-peat, and honestly, another Frozen Four for him. So happy for him. So what do you think is going to happen for Jack Devine here, as now he's eligible?
Honestly, no idea. I'm not one that follows prospects too heavily. I know he's been a name that's been around the organization for a while since he was drafted. He's been in the the Frozen Four a few times, but I'm always a little wary of college players, because it seems like more and more year after year, a lot of them are electing to go to free agency because they're not going to have a roster spot and they feel like they deserve one because they've played at a level of hockey that may be up to or maybe is equal to the AHL. Who knows? And somebody's going to probably, burn me on that in the comments. But I think it would be good for him to get the experience at a pro level to play with the Checkers. I also wouldn't be surprised if he does sign an ELC and the Panthers just want to kind of give him a few games just to kind of, get his feet wet. And then maybe next season he'll be the cheap talent that they may need, to maybe put him on the third or fourth line. Who knows?
Maybe.
But don't take it from me.
Yeah. But the trajectory isn't always linear when it comes to this. Thankfully for him, 2 straight years of being a top 10, finishing top 10 in the Hobie Baker voting for him. So I would, for the Panthers' perspective, for the front office, they hope that it's the 3 years coming out of this year so that they can delay when they have to pay him, as there's so many expensive contracts for him, and they could just keep another one on their books on the cheap for him. So that's what I hope for the Panthers happens. But you know what? If that gets Jack Devine a little bit quicker to his next deal, I'll be happy for him personally. Another thing that's going on here for the Panthers is Game 82, Tuesday night. Panthers-Lightning has been moved from a 7 p.m. puck drop to a 7:30 p.m. puck drop, and will be added on the national TV schedule on ESPN. Now that Alexander Ovechkin has gotten the record for most goals all time in NHL history, they removed Capitals Islanders from the ESPN slot, but it will still be able to watch locally on Script Sports here in South Florida. But it's funny because part of me is like, oh man, this is the second end of a back-to-back. We've seen how the Panthers handled the most recent one. And I feel like this is going to be another. Part of me wonders if this is going to be another situation where it's going to be on the national stage, and then the Panthers are just preparing for another matchup here. But hey, now the pressure's on because the Panthers defeat the Red Wings. Now the Tampa Bay Lightning are facing them on Friday, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have a favorable schedule based on getting these teams on the second end of a back-to-back. They got Toronto on the second end of a back-to-back, Detroit. They're going to have Buffalo on the second end of a back-to-back on Sunday, and then the Panthers on the second end coming up. So I'm interested to see where we will end up when Tuesday night comes around. So I'm a little surprised that was added to the national stage, just because of the unpredictability of how this could go down.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. I mean, Florida didn't clinch the Atlantic Division last year until the last game of the season because the Bruins felt like it was safer for them to throw a game against Ottawa to get a series with the Leafs, which did end up panning out for them, but not so much in the second round. You have to think of what kind of mental gymnastics, I guess, John Cooper wants to throw at this. I mean, very smart coach, very savvy. So is he going to start pulling his guys and not really worrying about it because they already know they're basically going to play the Panthers? Or do you think it's important to him to get home ice? So, a couple questions that I would ask myself.
He's won 2 series against the Panthers not having home ice, so I don't think he necessarily cares in that sense. So that's I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if we get to that game and then it's Jonas Johansson versus Vitek Vanacek there for that matchup for the Panthers. But I could also see a situation where Sergei Bobrovsky plays on Saturday against Buffalo, Vanacek starts against New York, and then TBD, where we could possibly see Vanacek even start a back-to-back, and you get Sergei Bobrovsky a full week off, a rare one for him, and getting him set up for the postseason. So I could see a situation where that happens. You make a little bit of a final push, but not go overexert yourself. We're probably going to see another Panthers skater also take a maintenance day sometime in the next game. Maybe it's Nico Mikkola's turn to take a maintenance day. Maybe it's Evan Rodrigues' turn to take a maintenance day as well. We saw Nico Mikkola banged up earlier this season, missed a good amount of time for the first time in his short time with the Panthers here. So that's another situation where the Panthers are going to be, they're going to be strategic about this as well. And also the fact that Buffalo is hot in April when they're already eliminated is, number one, hilarious. But number two, the Panthers aren't worried in where they've seen multiple guys out of the lineup. I mean, Bennett, Tkachuk, Ekblad are in the lineup right now in their win against Detroit, and they were still able to control play. And I want another opportunity to see what the Panthers can do while other guys get maintenance days.
So the fact that they were able to kind of hold their own against, it was basically the Charlotte Checkers against the Detroit Red Wings, and they still almost came back and tied that game up. It shows that this team does have depth, and that, if you do inject new blood into the roster, those guys want to make a point that, hey, they think that they deserve to be up here and they're going to do anything they can, provide energy, throw hits, forecheck, whatever it is. This Panthers team right now is much different than what it was the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago, they had to win out basically, or they had to play everybody if they were hurt or not to get in the playoffs. Last year, we didn't really need to rest too many guys, but we didn't really want to lose our game, so everybody started playing towards the end of the season. This year, I think injuries are becoming a concern. I mean, earlier, Nico Mikkola went back to the locker room. He's getting banged up. Can the Panthers afford to lose another defenseman before the end of the season? I think not. I think possibly having Matt Kierstad back in and maybe another defenseman from Charlotte come up is not good, but they'll play within the system and they might be okay. But again, this whole point is to stay healthy and get ready for game 1, which is going to be in 2 weeks?
Yeah. 8 days for them. And here's the thing, the Charlotte Checkers will be back in action on Saturday. So I don't know if you're going to put I don't know that they're going to insert Rasmus Asplund back in, Jesse Puljujarvi. Maybe Jesse Puljujarvi is a stay for the Panthers. We will see based on the Friday transactions tomorrow for them. So we will see how the Panthers manage things. But right now, you don't want to go too long without a good amount of players out if they are at least able to play. Although Sam Bennett, like I mentioned with Jacob on Wednesday, this is his 4 Nations break for him. so we will see how they rotate the guys for maintenance. And hey, Carver Hagee, maybe he's back in the lineup. And the fact that even though it's an empty netter, it's a little bit confidence for him. It's a stat on the scoreboard. You look at years from now, that's one that's added on, and it's like, hey, I'm at least getting closer to 20 goals for myself. So hopefully it gives him an opportunity to at least statistically get back to that point for him. So we'll see for that. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on another edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, another win that we are covering here for the Florida Panthers. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Appreciate it, Armando. Glad we're celebrating another win. But everybody, you guys can follow me on Twitter or X at Prudential0. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I don't recommend it. Follow me at Bure1096.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And I will see you next week as we will be previewing a first round matchup. So can't wait, my friend.
Get that beard growing.
Yes, no doubt. See you then.
See you then.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.